Today I'm going to teach you how to lose more fat and build more muscle in less time with a high protein diet. And by the way, if you want to go hit that bell icon down there, YouTube will let you know next time I post a video. Protein intake is a critically important aspect of both fat loss and muscle gain, and since last week I talked about carbs, and the week before that I talked about fats, I thought it would be a great time to go ahead and talk about the third macronutrient, protein, and share that with the YouTube fam. First, let's talk about why protein is so important, then we'll move on to specific protein recommendations. The Treadaway training community is interested in losing more weight in less time, and it even says so right here on the homepage, helping busy professionals lose more weight in less time. And that's exactly what a high protein diet does. Several studies have shown this, and I'll quickly go over one of them with you right now. This particular study took 24 overweight women and it split them into two groups. It had a moderately high protein group and a lower protein group. And the higher protein group over the course of the 10-week diet lost 1.5 more pounds than the low protein group. And you may hear this and say, ooh, big deal. You know, they lost a whole 1.5 more pounds over the course of 10 weeks. And while, yes, this is fair, the interesting thing here is that more of the weight they lost came from fat than with the other group. In fact, they actually lost 2 more pounds of pure body fat. And again, this might not sound impressive, but when you take into account that pure body fat looks like this, that's 2 pounds of pure body fat, it starts to sound a little bit more impressive, doesn't it? In addition to losing more weight and more of the weight lost coming from body fat, the higher protein group also reported being more satisfied with their diet, which brings me to my second point. Protein is very filling. After all, the hardest part of sticking to a fat loss diet is staying full, because if you're hungry, you're going to want to eat more, and if you eat more, you're not going to hit your calorie target. If you don't hit your calorie target, you're not going to lose weight. If you eat more filling foods, you'll be more full, and if you're more full, you'll be more likely to stick to that calorie target. And I've linked a few more studies down below, and some of them talk about the satiety benefits of protein. So if you want to give those a look, then you can check those out down below. In case you haven't guessed yet, protein is the most important of the 3 macronutrients for fat loss. In fact, if calories and protein are equal, it doesn't even matter how you distribute your remaining calories between fats and carbs for fat loss. However, if you take calories away from protein and give those to carbs or fats, you will lose less weight. Less of the weight you lose will come from fat, and on top of that, it'll be harder to stick to the diet in the first place. This does have a limit though. You shouldn't just restrict yourself to only eating protein on a fat loss diet. And that brings me to my favorite part. Let's talk numbers. How much protein you should eat will depend on if your primary goal is for fat loss or if your primary goal is muscle gain. And most of my audience is interested in fat loss, so we'll cover that one first. If you are a beginner weightlifter, and yes, you should definitely be lifting weights if your goal is fat loss, then you should aim to get 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. If you're an intermediate to advanced weightlifter, you should aim to get 1.1 to 1.3 grams of protein per pound of body weight. The reason for the increased protein demand for advanced trainees is that as a beginner, your body is more sensitive to the effects of both protein and resistance training, so you need less protein to maintain your lean body mass while on a diet. In fact, you'll probably gain some muscle on a fat loss diet if you are a beginner. As you gain muscle mass, you require a higher dose of protein to maintain that muscle mass. Now let's talk about muscle gain. If your primary goal is to gain muscle, you should consume 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And you might be a little bit confused here. You might be wondering why your protein requirement is lower for gaining muscle than for losing fat. After all, you know, protein, muscle's made up of protein. Why would your protein requirement be less? This is because when your calories are restricted on a fat loss diet, your body will be using some of the protein you're consuming as fuel. But when you're in a calorie surplus, aiming to gain muscle, you'll have more calories allotted to carbs and fat to use for fuel, and you won't have to worry about your body using protein for fuel, which means that you won't have to consume as much protein as if you were in a calorie deficit. And adding protein won't necessarily harm you, it just might be a better idea to add some calories to your carbs from a resistance training performance perspective. As a final note, even if you're on a high protein diet, you will not lose fat if you're eating more calories than you burn. And if you'd like to learn more about that, I've put a link to my how to make meal plans that shred fat video, both up here in the cards and down in the description. Do you know anyone who's wanting to lose weight or gain muscle or both? Do them a favor and let them know that you care about their goals by sharing this video with them. If you want to watch my video about keto for fat loss or about carbs and fat loss, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I've also linked those up in the cards and down in the description as well. Have you ever tried a high protein diet? Let me know down in the comments, and while you're down there, let me know any questions that you might have as well. I will be happy to answer those. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content just like this, hit the subscribe button and hit that notification bell while you're down there so YouTube lets you know when I post a new video. I will be back next week with another fat loss topic. As always, God bless you and your family, and I'll see you next week. In fact, if calories and protein are equated, if calories and protein are equal, then it doesn't even matter how you distribute your calories between. In fact, if calories and protein are equal, it doesn't matter how much